Protection expert Will Geddes. Will, you've been with us many, many times before. You know these men and women that work in our specialist firearms units. What are they like, and how often do they ever use their guns?
Very, very rarely, to be absolutely honest with you, Nigel. And I've worked with law enforcement agencies across the world, including the United States. And in terms of the training and in terms of the checks and balances and auditing and investigations, we are probably subject to the most stringent controls ever. And in terms of the officers, particularly the SO-19 and the ARV, the Armed Response Vehicle units, they are only going to use their weapons and present their weapons, let alone discharge them, at situations which they believe either are life-threatening to them or to other members of the general public.
And they work as a team. So if somebody was to step grossly out of line, I mean, they wouldn't get away with it, would they?
No. I mean, in terms of how they will respond to a hostile threat, and a hostile threat is someone that is threatening either with a weapon themselves, it could be a vehicle, it could be a knife, could be anything which is potentially going to cause harm, and it could cause fatal harm. They will give so many advance warnings, Nigel, before they actually deploy that firearm. And I think, you know, again, you say with Mr. Kaba's case, we can't speak particularly on that issue because it's currently under investigation. But what I do know is that these officers and the officer that discharged that particular weapon and any other witnesses will be subject to the most stringent investigation to determine that everything appropriate, the rules of engagement employed, were as they should be.
Yes.
And if they weren't, then suitable punishments will be levied.
I mean, I looked at it, you know, and last year there were 18,000 incidents to which firearms units were called out. They used firearms on 4 occasions. In the whole of last year, on 4 occasions. The year before, 5 occasions. So this idea that black people are being indiscriminately shot by firearms units clearly is massively wide of the mark. But to me, the even bigger question is, how is it? And again, not prejudging, but we do know this man had served a sentence for previous firearms offences, and police are allowed to use reasonable suspicion. Around, you know, of course they are. How is it in the face of this that the Met say the shooting has had a significant impact on public confidence, as 500 people, including Diane Abbott, you know, are even before the funeral, but they weren't going to wait for that, you know, saying that this shows what a terrible, dreadful, racist country we are.
Well, that's not helpful.
Why do the Met back off? Why do the Met do this?
I have no idea, Nigel, and I think hopefully with the installation of Mark Rowley, and hopefully this reduction of this pandering to a certain extent to the general populace, that we will, fingers crossed, Nigel, start seeing a more robust police force. But what we are seeing, and bearing in mind the vast majority of police officers, evident over the last few days and particularly yesterday, are unarmed, that there is some 40,000 approximate assaults on police officers every year. Now, these officers, men and women who are actually carrying out this service to provide our protection, to respond in many extreme situations, are putting their lives at considerable risk, and they may have no more than an ASP and a taser.
We saw them yesterday. It was magnificent. Yesterday, I spoke to dozens of police officers yesterday. They were doing a grand job. They really, really were. Sunday morning, 2 police officers stabbed in Leicester Square. So Mark Rowley put out a statement, and in the middle of that statement, after the stabbing of 2 police officers, he said, "We know the need for reform." Can you understand why not just firearms officers, but other police officers are frankly considering just packing it in?
And I know quite a few police officers who are considering that personally, that they feel that they're not being supported suitably to be able to fulfill their role. I think what we have to consider here is that police officers have perhaps lost a degree of respect over the years. I mean, you and I are of similar ages. I think back in the day when we were youngsters, we treated them with a great deal more respect. If not, you know, if not, we were dealt with quite harshly. But to Mr. Kaba, and particularly to the BAME sector, who believe that they are of greater focus, I work with a lot of drill groups. A lot of those guys, even though the rhetoric and the prose that they use in their music does sound violent, it does sound aggressive, does sound gang-related. Most of these guys are really, really nice people. I do understand that people can feel particularly targeted or profiled I myself, I've been pulled over by the police and you know, questioned and had the vehicle searched for no particular reason. So, you know, it does happen. It does happen.
But if